JB, question a lot of people have isn't who's necessarily who's 1 or 2 on our rankings, but who's number 3? And I've got to still do my ballot, so I decided to go to some folks that might know better who is number 3, namely some players in the Stagg Bowl Friday night. Last question. I haven't done my ballot yet for top 25. We will assume 1 and 2 will be North Central and Mount Union, one of the 2 orders. Who's number 3 this year in your book?
There's a lot. I mean, is how the game went even last week. Mary Hardin Baylor was a fantastic team. I mean, top to bottom, great athletes, great team, great people everywhere on that roster. And then watching like Wartburg play against Mount Union, that was another great team who played incredibly hard, and they were really fun to watch. But it's hard to really judge, I think, in terms of that, especially when you don't play like everyone down the road. And even just looking at Bethel putting up a great fight against Mary Hardin Baylor and kind of letting it slip in the end. There's a lot of very talented teams, but I think I'd still have to keep like Mary Hardin Baylor would be number 3, I think.
Right now.
Ooh. That's a tough question. I can just say that Wartburg we played them, so they were a great team and a tough opponent, and that this playoffs we played some tough teams that I would put up there.
I would say Mary Hardin Baylor.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm not sure. Obviously, all the teams we play in the playoffs have been good, and I've only got to compete against Wartburg, never got to play against Mary Hardin Baylor, so I don't want to speak on them. But Wartburg is very talented, so we got to play against them. Yep.
To be honest, I think it could be a toss-up because there are a lot of close games this year within the division. Like Mary Hardin Baylor's up there, but also, I mean, they beat Trinity, but Trinity had a close game. Bethel had a close game. There's a lot of things that could go either way. So to be honest, I'm not really sure. I would say like the teams like Mary Hardin Baylor, Bethel, Wheaton, they're all up there for third in the country.
That's a hard question. There's a lot of great talent all throughout Division III, so there's some great talent. So, I'm here, I'm ready to play.
So what do you think, JB? Who's number 3? If you had to say it right now at this point without the game being played yet.
Probably a healthier Crusaders team. I just feel like, Kyle King, once he went down with that shoulder injury, and we found out it was separated, they had to pop it back in during halftime. Walker got away with some probably potential pass interference on Jordan there in the second half. And maybe if that game's played at a more neutral site, it's not going to be a 35-point spread. I'd say the Crusaders would be my number 3 pick, even though, Wartburg really probably should have won that game against Mount Union. They just, their defense couldn't make that one last stop. But that's what Plunk and company have been doing all year. If they have time, they're going to throw the ball down the field and score, and that's what we're looking forward to tomorrow or Friday night for the Stagg Bowl. It's going to be a great pass offense against a great pass defense.
I'm still undecided on who's number 3. We'll find out. I think after the game will probably be the best time to tell. See who comes victorious here. Maybe drags the other team with them to the number 3 slot. But first, we have a big game to come. It's the Stagg Bowl. Stagg Bowl 49 on season 15 of In the Huddle. Okay, so in a perfect world, we would do this live on a Friday morning from the stadium, test our connections for the pregame show and everything else. Well, Annapolis, Maryland is not a perfect world. It's a nice place, don't get me wrong, but for us here, it is a little bit of a strange situation because the practice field is the actual Stagg Bowl field, and so there's been a lockdown of sorts going on in this stadium all the last couple of days. We're doing this on Thursday evening inside the media area, the press box, as it is raining like the dickens outside, and even though things will clear up on Friday and be about 50 degrees during the day, we may not have an opportunity to even do this because there'll be practices going on around 9 a.m. until about noontime here at the stadium. So We are recording this. This is against our better judgment and desire, but it is what it is. JB, we're going to talk first about the semifinals, how we got here in the first place, your 30,000-foot view, since I'm about 29,000 feet in the air right now, I feel like, at this stadium at Navy Marine Corps Stadium here in Annapolis. But you go 30,000 feet and tell us what you saw in the semifinals.
Well, in a season where we saw a lot of very unpredictable and exciting things happening, upsets, topsy-turvy results, games, wins, losses, we of course get the predictable 1 versus 2 national championship game. I was thinking that maybe at least one upset could have happened last weekend. It did not pan out. I probably should have just stuck with the numbers and the tail of the tape and gone with my head more than as a fall, because I got my first official goose egg of the season. I still stand by the Wartburg pick, and I really do feel like they probably could have won that game. But I knew I was going out on a limb with Mary Hardin Baylor with the banged up Kyle King, and then as we ultimately saw, just some of the struggles that they had trying to get the ball to Brandon Jordan later on. And ultimately, North Central is just such a great team. Never should have picked against them. I'm not gonna, make that mistake twice. And so, hey, they're definitely going to be the favorites in this matchup for a variety of reasons, and we'll kind of get through those and talk about it. And once we get to our next tail of the tape segment in a little bit.
Sounds good. I figured out it was about 68.5% this season so far. You're about 74%, so that 10-game lead means something, even though you dropped 2 last week. And I went 6-0 the last 2 weeks, which is unusual for me in the playoffs. But when chalk is winning, I guess that's the situation that if you're picking chalk's going to help you out eventually in the way this the world goes. So, JB, first things first here, we're going to go to Crunchtime. We are going to use some clips from last week here, and it's, tough games, no doubt, we're going to see here in a minute. But the results that a lot of people expected coming into the playoffs, as you said, you might hope for some upsets here or there, but ultimately we end up with 1 versus 2. How do we get there? Here we go. It's time for Crunch Time for Week 15 of the 2022 Division III college football season. We'll start with the early game, the Wartburg at Mount Union, and here is a big play with the score 14-7 in favor of Mount Union as Nate Link recovers a fumble forced by Owen Grover as he collides with Braxton Plunk, and Link lands on it, actually runs with it, and then goes down to the 14-yard line. 2 plays later, it's Carter Henry taking the 14-yard touchdown pass from Niall McLaughlin to tie the game at 14 apiece. We'll go to the third quarter, where Wayne Ruby Jr. gets a 2-yard touchdown pass from Braxton Plunk to make it 21-14 in favor of Mount Union 4 minutes into the half. Wartburg would trim the lead to 4 with a field goal early in the fourth quarter, and then to 11:10 left fourth quarter, Drake George, 26-yard touchdown pass from Niall McLaughlin. Wartburg is leading this game 24-21, but Mount Union has a lot to say about it. First, 4:33 left. Braxton Plunk, a 2-yard touchdown run. It's 28-24, the score of the century, it seems like lately, in favor of Mount Union, but it didn't end there. As Wartburg, I don't know what happened here to the defense of Mount Union. It looked like slow motion as Carter Henry gets a 59-yard rumbling touchdown from Niall McLaughlin. 31-28 Wartburg. More on this play later. Then
4th and 7. Plunk in trouble. Plunk gonna throw deep for Ruby. He made the grab. How did Wayne Ruby get behind the Wartburg secondary to be found by Braxton Plunk?
31 seconds left. Mount Union's Tyler Echeverry, who was in for DeAndre Parker, gets a 3-yard touchdown run. It's 34-31 Mount Union. One last chance for Wartburg, and here's 4th and 10. Niall McLaughlin is incomplete, and that would do it. Mount Union wins this game 34-31. Braxton Plunk goes 43 for 56, 396 yards, 2 passing touchdowns, 2 rushing touchdowns. On the other side, Carter Henry from Wartburg, 7 receptions, 158 yards, and 2 receiving touchdowns. JB, that Carter Henry touchdown, though, is telling about some of the gaps right now we're seeing in the Mount Union defense in key times of certain games. It's a concern, obviously, especially when you're going to take on an offense like North Central's, but maybe we learned a little bit about the defense of Mount Union, he said.
Well, yeah, I think so. And really, the Mount Union defense is all predicated on getting pressure on the quarterback. And if they're not going to be able to get to Luke Lennon, then that's going to create some holes and some opportunities for folks like Hardy and others on this Cardinals passing attack, which they can throw the ball. I mean, they love to do the power runs and send Greenfield up the middle and bash away. But with play action, the RPO, these linebackers and defensive backs for Mount Union are going to have to be on point, because it only takes a couple of split seconds for that separation, and we saw that a couple times with the Knights, and they did a good job of creating some matchup challenges, and they capitalized on some big plays, although unfortunately that last touchdown they scored was too soon. You can't give Mount Union 3 minutes with the game on the line. That was ultimately what did the Knights in my opinion. But their defense had played great all season. You thought maybe you had a chance to close them out, but with this vertical passing attack that Mount Union has, it's gonna be tough to slow them down.
Let's go to semifinal number 2, Mary Hardin-Baylor at North Central. In the first quarter, midway through it, North Central's Alec Wolf gets a 16-yard touchdown pass from Luke Lanin. It's 7-0 in favor of North Central, but hold on. The ensuing kickoff, Tanner Raines basically does a pooch to get it away from KJ Miller, and they end up with the ball. And so a minute and a half later, Ethan Greenfield with a 7-yard touchdown run makes it 14-0. Basically, don't blink in this game, it seemed like, for the offense of North Central early on. But 3 minutes later, Mary Hardin-Baylor responds as Brandon Jordan gets a 15-yard touchdown pass from Kyle King to make it 14-7 in favor of North Central. We'll go to the second quarter, 12:55 left. Matt Quinn, an 8-yard touchdown pass from Luke Lanin, makes it 21-7 North Central. But Mary Hardin-Baylor will be heard from one more time with 6 minutes left in the first half. Jordan, a 32-yard touchdown pass from King, makes it 21-14. We'll go to the third quarter, but I will tell you again, as JB stated earlier, Kyle King was injured. His shoulder took a big ding to it and ultimately was slightly separated and had to be popped back in, and he definitely lost some velocity on the ball. We'll go to the third quarter, and you'll see Kyle King intercepted here by Sam Taviani early in the third quarter, and then the ensuing drive leads to D'Angelo Hardy with a 28-yard touchdown pass from Luke Lanin. It's 28-14 in favor of North Central. 10 minutes later, Ethan Greenfield, a 4-yard touchdown run, makes it 35-14 North Central. The icing on the cake, 6 minutes left in the fourth quarter. Nick Remmel with a 23-yard touchdown pass from Luke Lanin. 42-14 there. The final score, North Central 49, UMHB 14. That's 28 unanswered points in the second half, I should say, as Luke Lanin gets 313 total yards, 4 passing touchdowns. Brandon Jordan for UMHB, 5 catches, only 79 yards, 2 receiving touchdowns though. But JB, this was one of those games where once that injury occurred, I'm not saying that UMHB would have won the game necessarily if it didn't occur, but it definitely changed the nature of the game.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And I think what really changed the game, though, Frank, was the really gutsy call that Coach Spencer made on that sort of pooch kickoff that totally caught everybody by surprise. It gave them a 2-touchdown lead. And honestly, Mary Hardin-Baylor they tried, but they never could quite come back after that. That was a really great move by Coach Spence, and it really panned out. It was one of those things where it was a little bit of a risky play, but when it worked out, it gave them such a big cushion, and they never really looked back. I mean, the second half, Brandon Jordan was really shut out by Walker. I mean, I know that there were some Crusaders fans who thought that Walker's play would have probably been flagged if it wasn't in Illinois. But hey, I mean, it's one of those things where it was kind of a sweet revenge type of situation for the Cardinals, who also got blown out in the second half at the Stagg Bowl last year. They got to kind of serve the dish back, and I imagine it was pretty satisfying feeling for them to win a semifinal game and punch their ticket to their third straight championship game from their home court.
And that is crunch time for Week 15 of the 2022 Division III college football season, the semifinals. JB, before we leave Week 15, let's look at your MVPs.
Well, I'll start on the right, and we had him on the show for the semifinal round. Sam Tiviani was talking about how this was going to be his last home game of his career, and boy, did he show up big. I mean, the interceptions, the sacks, tackles for loss. He just played an outstanding game. I don't know if he can best it in the Stagg Bowl, but this nickel linebacker role that he plays really was a pivotal, I should say, part of the Cardinals defense, and he did an awesome job. Tanner Raines has been my special teams MVP for a couple weeks now. That pooch kick that he executed was perfect. He nailed all his other kicks, pretty much extra points. They didn't really need him for a field goal. We'll see if they need him to kick one against Mount Union Friday night. But speaking of Mount Union, I mean, how many? Almost 400 yards of total offense, like 56 dropbacks. I mean, this Braxton Plunk has just had an amazing career for Mount Union, and he's been such a pleasure to watch. We've had one chance to talk to him in the spring season. It would have been nice to have had another chance to talk to him or some other Raiders players. I understand at least you had a media day opportunity where they had to talk to you. Hopefully in the future we can have more conversations with young men like Braxton, because I know I enjoyed getting to know him when we spoke in the spring season, thanks to Lenny Reich and company. And we miss you, Lenny. I know he'll be at the game tomorrow in spirit. Hopefully there's a little spot in the press box for him to watch the game, and we'll be thinking of him as the Raiders take the field on Friday night.
Indeed, and we actually had a good time with the Mount Union guys and the North Central guys, but the Mount Union guys too. We did get a little player versus player interview going on as well from Mount Union, which they gladly participated in during our media session, so we appreciated that. You'll need to tune in to the pregame show, D3Football.com. 5 o'clock Eastern time it will start. And Greg Thomas and Gordon Mann will be joining me as we go through the Glardy Trophy winner and a lot about these teams and some guests along the way as well. And we'll do a tail of the tape there, a little discussion. Well, maybe we should do ours here now and talk about number 2 taking on number 1. And JB, as we run through this, we see both teams are averaging over 500 yards of offense. 553 for North Central, 507 for Mount Union. And both are in the 200 yards allowed range, 203 allowed by North Central, 192 by Mount Union. Braxton Plunk, 53 total touchdowns, 6 interceptions. Luke Lanin, 48 total touchdowns, 6 interceptions. You might as well call it a dead heat there in certain ways. But where it's not a dead heat is the turnover ratio. Plus 13 for the Raiders, plus 26 for North Central. Point differential, plus 48.5 for North Central, plus 36.3 for Mount Union. JB, I got to be honest with you, the numbers seem to favor North Central in a couple key statistics here. What's your thought?
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, ultimately it's going to come down to, can this Mount Union rush defense handle this 300-plus yards per game juggernaut that the Cardinals bring to bear? And can Plunk protect the ball? I mean, he did get intercepted once by Wartburg, and I imagine that the interception will probably happen at least at some point in the game tomorrow night. These defenses are too good for it not to happen. But yeah, I mean, the biggest difference between last year's North Central team and this year is really the turnover margin. It's basically doubled. They're doing a great job causing turnovers, getting the offense the ball, and that's the reason why they're scoring 50 plus points every week. So it's, and I don't even know, like, does the pooch kick, does that count as a turnover? In a way it is. I mean, so you could say they're really plus 27, and it's technically not really, but there's definitely a statistical advantage there. But when you look at the passing downs and the pass yards allowed by passing touchdowns for Plunk, and then you look at the pass yards allowed by North Central, there's an opportunity that the Raiders could potentially take there. We'll have to see how it goes.
So, a couple things here before we get to the pick of this game. As usual, I will be on the sidelines for this game for, I believe, the 16th straight Stagg Bowl. Give or take. I got to go back and figure out the numbers at this point. I think this is number 16 for me. Yes, sir. And we do it now to benefit cancer in terms of research or treatment. We still love Sager Strong, but this year, in honor of our friend Trenton Duper in center, we thought we would switch up here a little bit to something that actually affects youth cancer, namely the St. Jude's Children's Hospital. Obviously, he's a little bit older than a child, but youth cancer is something that is horrendous, taking otherwise vibrant children or youth or whatever, and taking really the slice of vitality and life away from them. They just want to go play with their friends and go to school and do the things they want to do, play their sports and everything else. And cancer has taken that away from many of them. I got a chance to get a little update from Trenton on how he is doing after, remember, he had about 5-day chemo situation going after he talked to us that Friday. That following Monday, he went in for those 5 days of chemo. He said, when I asked him how he's holding up, pretty good. I've actually had a great week so far, so that's been nice. And I said, awesome to hear. I told him it's Stagg Bowl, but a lot of people have been asking us, and I know this is true for you too, how he's doing. And I'll tell them the good news, but tell them to keep sending prayers and support. And he said, that's awesome. Can't wait to watch on Friday. And yes, I'll never refuse more prayers. So keep it going, folks. Keep those prayers coming for Trenton Duper. He needs them. It's great to hear him in good spirits, at least through direct messages. And hopefully this is a momentum change for him after what he's been going through. But please also, if you can, give to our little fundraiser for St. Jude's Children's Hospital that we are doing in honor of the Sparkle Man or Sparkle Mare attempt here this year. As there will be a costume change at halftime, most likely, with a couple different outfits for you to maybe vote on which one you prefer better. We'll see what happens. All right. Okay, I've talked enough. It's time to make a decision here. Who's going to win Stagg Bowl 49? Number 2, Mount Union, or number 1, North Central? JB, you go first.
Yeah, well, I think, the Cardinals have been the number 1 team and the team to beat all season, and it seems like they're just on a mission with these fifth-year seniors like Taviani and Gilroy and strong team. Luke Lennon's really, improved his game and has really kind of become the best, arguably one of the best quarterbacks in the nation. Plunk obviously has the stats. But Lennon, man, he can do it all, and I think he will probably be the difference maker along with some of those defensive linemen. And I'm going to call the Cards will win Stagg Bowl 49 by a 35-21 margin.
Yeah, it comes down to the 3 facets of the game approach again for me, which is how I selected the winners last week, at least the North Central game, and I went through that. I think when we look at the defenses, especially right now, I go back to that long ball, the Carter Henry rumbling touchdown that almost gave the win to Wartburg, and you say to yourself, if you allow that to happen against North Central, it will be lights out early and often. And the thing about North Central this season is everybody has allowed them to jump out to a lead. Even Carnegie Mellon to a certain degree. Granted, things calmed down in that game a little bit eventually, and the score was what it was. Good job by CMU. I saw somebody saying, critiquing us on not giving Carnegie Mellon enough credit. It's anything but the truth right there. We have been strong on Coach Larson and company, and at times have called them out for bad offensive performances, but their defense was the consistency all the year long. Let's face it, they proved against North Central. Now the question is, can Mount Union's defense hold up? I'm going to say overall they'll do okay, but I think there are going to be moments in this game where they give things up. On the flip side, Mount Union will score points, but they'll have to be more deliberate in the approach, just like they were against Wartburg. I don't think they're going to have deep balls early. Maybe later in the game they'll be able to get deep balls down and converted and completed. But overall, on this neutral field, I said it on the ATN podcast Friday morning, you'll hear as well, 30-27 in favor of North Central is my selection here. Would I be shocked if Mount Union wins? No, I would not be shocked. But I can tell you something interesting, and you'll hear more about this as well on ATN. Wednesday during press day, North Central and Coach Spencer really were saying, essentially, paraphrasing slightly, but this is the intent. They want to be like Mount Union in terms of the juggernaut that Mount Union has been throughout the decades.
Dynasty.
And yet, this is the team that's in their third straight Stagg Bowl. Not Mount Union, North Central. And here is the first Stagg Bowl in 3 tries for Mount Union since 2018. And that's the interesting thing here, folks, that North Central, the team that's kind of at the top, the pinnacle right now, is saying we want to be like Mount Union. But that's the paradigm. That is what everybody looks at in terms of Division III. It's not even talking about Whitewater. It's we want to be like Mount Union. Something to think about in terms of what we'll be saying for the next 20, 30 years of Division III football, because there will be, for folks that are remembering, a lot of we want to be like Mount Union in those years that they were just the truly dominant team. We'll see who is holding the trophy at the end of Friday night in Annapolis, Maryland. It's going to be a slugfest, I think. It's going to be exciting on TV. I don't know what the crowd's going to look like, but the night will be clear and will be pretty good weather-wise, 37-ish degrees, which is not horrendous for what we've been through over the years. So come on down, come on out. Come see this game, folks. We want you out here. We want to see a good showing for Division III football. JB, though, we will have more shows after, obviously, throughout the postseason. But I'm going to give you a chance here to give your final thoughts for now on what you've seen up to this point.
Well, this is our 33rd episode of this 15th season. You're going to be going to your 22nd game of this season. It's been just a great ride. We've had a lot of fun interacting with the coaches, players, fans, families, everything. It's these people and these relationships and interactions that keep us, coming back. There's part of me wishes I could be up in Annapolis. I know there's lots of reasons why I can't, but I will be, tuning in. You can watch the broadcast on the ESPN family of networks. But if you're like me, you put your earbuds in and you tune into the D3Football.com audio, so you can hear Sparkle Mayer over there do his thing and do his sideline interviews. Hopefully you're not going to be calling for holding or say it all day
holding
from the sideline. Yeah, shout out Skeeta, man, he's the best. You better watch out, Frank. Your job could be in trouble. You gotta keep your game up there. So, and I'll look forward to seeing the sparkly jackets. Don't forget to donate to Frank's fundraiser. We tweeted out that on our Twitter handle, so check that out at D3FB Huddle. And it's been a blast. We got one last game left after all these hundreds and hundreds that we've seen. This really fun season, and so can't wait to see who takes home the proverbial walnut and bronze. And good luck to both teams.
Yeah, I mean, what a season it's been for us here on In the Huddle. Season 15, beyond our wildest dreams in terms of just being able to get out and about. When I became mayor, I didn't think that was going to be possible this year, but it was necessary in a lot of different ways. You folks out there made this drive, literal drive in a lot of cases of hours of driving on the road, worth making you helped get my mind off things where, you know, you have struggles throughout the week in life, in politics, and everything else. And I was always assured a good bowl of chili or a good corn dog or whatever else along the way on the other end of it. And also a lot of great coaches and players, the love that we got and everything else. It really was a season that I will never forget. 3 trips down to Texas. I have a feeling we're going to have more trips to Texas next year, and maybe to San Antonio more frequently than we think next year to cover some of those games. We'll see what happens. But we'll have other places we'll hit too. I mean, when you think of the grand total of everything we did this season, Massachusetts, New York, obviously, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Delaware, Maryland, Texas. So we had quite a few states covered in this year for games, and Illinois on top of it all. And so it was fun. A lot of resources spent, sure, but you know what? It's worth it, every penny of it. And hopefully we'll get JB to be on the road with me, or on his own if he wants to go cover some games that I can't get to next year. But this is going to be game number 22 in 2022 for me, and hopefully it's another special affair to top things off here in 2022. We'll see what happens. It'll be a great game. Thank you, everybody, for a tremendous season. But we will be back in terms of postseason shows at the very least here in season 15 before we rebrand to season 16, assuming we're having one. I think that will probably be likely. But for now, until after Stagg Bowl, enjoy the game, be safe, happy holidays. We don't talk to you on this venue, but nonetheless, enjoy yourselves, enjoy D3 football, and enjoy your families. Thanks, folks.